bright afternoon. As we all know that globalization is the increasing interconnectedness of the world's economies, cultures, and societies through trade, technology, and exchange of ideas. Today, we're going to discuss the comparison of the effects of South Korea and Indonesia on globalization in terms of economy, government, culture, and peace. Both countries play a significant role in shaping global trends, with South Korea's technology and Indonesia's large population and cultural diversity driving their unique contributions. When it comes to economy, South Korea as a developed country has significantly contributed to globalization through its technological advancements, innovative industries, and global trade. Its companies like Samsung and LGU have become household names worldwide. As a developing country, Indonesia's economy has a substantial impact on globalization through its natural resources, agricultural exports, and growing manufacturing sector. Its strategic location and large population make it an attractive market for foreign investors. First, we have global economic role. South Korea plays a major role in global economy by producing and exporting high-tech goods and innovations. It actively shapes global markets with its advanced technology and industrial capacity, while Indonesia influences globalization mainly through natural resources, agriculture, and manufacturing. It's not as advanced technology, but its economic potential and natural wealth are important on global scale. South Korea companies like Samsung, LG, Hyundai, and Kia are internationally recognized. These brands help South Korea influence consumer markets worldwide. While Indonesia brands like Indomie or instant noodles and Garuda Indonesia or airline are well known regionally but less dominant globally compared to Korean brands. South Korea was known for electronics, cars, and semiconductors. Industries are highly developed and globally competitive, while Indonesia is strong in agriculture like palm oil and rubber, mining like coal and tin, and textiles. Its manufacturing sector is growing steadily.
So now, let's move on to the fourth aspect of South Korea and Indonesia in terms of economy. So the fourth one is a trade strength. South Korea, known globally for high technology exports such as semiconductors, smartphones, automobiles, and display panels, home to multinational giants like Samsung, Hyundai, and LG which dominate global supply chain. South Korea invests over 4% of GDP in research and development, making it one of the top research and development spenders worldwide. This has led to innovation hubs like Seoul and Denjin, driven growth in ICT, biotechnology, and green energy, while Indonesia, a resource-rich nation, exporting coal, palm oil, rubber, nickel, and natural gas. Recently, Indonesia has become a key supplier of nickel as essential materials for electric vehicle batteries. Competitive labor costs make it attractive for manufacturing industry, shifting from higher cost countries like China. Indonesia is working to diversify its exports by promoting value-added processing instead of just raw materials export. South Korea trade strength lies in technology-driven innovation, while Indonesia lies in research-driven and labor-intensive industry. One dominates advanced supply chain, other support raw materials and manufacturing supply bases. So the fifth one is foreign investment. South Korea, a major outward investor with South Korean firms expanding aggressively through foreign direct investment and global mergers and acquisition. So example, Hyundai establishing EV plants in US and Europe. Samsung investing in chip plants and abroad. Outward FIDI helps South Korea gain access to new markets and resources with reinforcing its global cooperative footprint, while Indonesia acts as an inward investment hub due to its large domestic market of 270 plus million people and its cost-efficient labor force. Multinationals such as Toyota, Unilever, and Huawei have invested heavily in Indonesia to access both production and consumer markets. Policies like Omnibus Law of Job Creation 2020 were designed to simplify regulation and attract more FDI. Foreign investment flows into infrastructure, energy, digital economy, and manufacturing sector. So South Korea is an exporter of capital and expertise, while Indonesia is an importer of capital relying on foreign inflows to accelerate its growth. So the sixth aspect is population influence. South Korea population about 52 million, relatively small compared to Indonesia. So despite size, it has high per capita GDP productivity over USD 34,000. The country's strength lies in human capital, well educated, tech-savvy, and high skilled. However, South Korea faces challenges of aging population and low birth rates, which may affect its long-term labor supply, while Indonesia has a population over 270 million, the fourth largest in the world, has a young and a growing workforce, which is assessed for industries needing labor and for sustaining domestic consumption. Rising middle class boosts consumer demand for goods and services, making Indonesia an attractive market for global brands. But productivity per capita is lower than South Korea, showing a need for skills, upgrading, and education reforms. South Korea relies on efficiency and skills to maximize output per worker, while Indonesia advantage is a skill and market size. So the seventh and the last aspect is the strategic importance. South Korea serves as a global leader in technology and innovation, contributing significantly to digital economies, smart manufacturing, and clean energy technologies. Plays a strategic role in East Asia, balancing relationship with the US, China, and Japan. Its membership in the organization like OECD and G20 underscores its advanced economic status. South Korea also invests in cultural globalization through the key wave of Hallyu, spreading Korean culture, entertainment, and brand worldwide, while Indonesia holds a strategic location between the India and Pacific Oceans, acting as a gateway between Asia and Oceania. As a founding member of ASEAN, it's played a leadership role in shaping Southeast Asia's economic and political integration. Indonesia is a member of the G20, highlighting its growing voice in global economic policy. Its control over key resources like nickel positions is an important player in the green energy transition. South Korea is a global innovation leader, while Indonesia is a regional anchor and resource powerhouse. So, in conclusion, South Korea and Indonesia illustrate two powerful but different pathways in globalization. South Korea thrives on technology, innovation, and global corporate expansion, while Indonesia relies its resources, large population, and geographic position to attract investment and fuel growth. Together, they emphasize how globalization allows countries with different strengths, whether high-tech expertise or abundant resources, to contribute to the benefit from the global economy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let's talk about the governance between South Korea and Indonesia. So, when we say governance, it is the process used to make and implement decisions in a certain country. So, the constitutional framework between South Korea and Indonesia. In South Korea, the country follows the 1987 constitution, which gave the president strong powers like the head of a state or the government. However, the National Assembly, which is the parliament of South Korea, and the Constitutional Court can limit the president's power. For example, in 2017, President Park Geun-hye was impeached and removed from the office by the Constitutional Court. So it shows that the system has a strong check on the president. In Indonesia, they used the 1945 constitution, but it has been amended many times after the 1998 reformasi or reform movement. While it is also a presidential system, but there is more emphasis on separation of power and decentralization. For example, after reformasi, the president could no longer dissolve the parliament, and laws give stronger independence to the legislature and judiciary compared to before 1998. In terms of local government, in South Korea, the government is centralized, which means that the most important decisions come from the national government in Seoul. So, for example, in education, policies are the same across the whole country. The students follow the same curriculum and schools get equal support. So, this makes the system more organized and uniform. While in Indonesia, the government is decentralized, which means local governments in provinces and districts have a lot of power to make their own decisions. For example, in education, each region can adjust how schools are run depending on local needs. So this gives flexibility, but it also leads to differences. Some areas may have better schools and services than others because resources are not evenly managed. So, in summary, South Korea's governance is more centralized with strong presidential power but checked by courts and parliament, while Indonesia's governance is more decentralized, giving local governments bigger roles after reformasi or reforms.
Now let's move on to the justice system between the South Korea and Indonesia. So in South Korea has an independent judiciary that acts as a watchdog over the executive and legislative branches. The Constitutional Court plays a vital role in protecting democracy by reviewing laws, handling impeachment, and safeguarding human rights. So like for example, in year 2017, the Constitutional Court upheld the impeachment of President Park Geun-hye over the corruption scandal. This showed the judiciary strength in checking government abuse of power. While in Indonesia, Indonesia's judiciary is formally independent but faces challenges such as corruption, political influence, and weak enforcement of rulings. Although the Constitutional Court exists, credibility issues sometimes undermine its decision. Like for example, the Constitutional Court's decision in year 2019 to reject opposition candidate Prabowo Subianto's election, the fraud claims during the presidential election was seen as a lawful, but critics argued that judiciary lacked credibility because of the past corruption scandals involving judges. Next, let's proceed to the political process in South Korea. South Korea has a mature multi-party democracy where elections are highly competitive, transparent, and administered by the trusted institutions like National Election Commission. Citizens have a strong confidence in the electoral system, and the peaceful transfers of power are the norm.
Like for example, in the year 2022 presidential election, conservative candidate Yoon Suk Yeol narrowly defeated Liberal candidate Lee Jin Myung despite the tight margin. The process was transparent, voter turnout was high, and both sides accepted the result peacefully, showing stability and trust in democratic institutions. So while in Indonesia is a young but vibrant democracy that transitioned from authoritarian rule 1998. Its practices direct presidential and local elections, which empowers citizens to choose their leaders. However, its political process faces persistent challenges such as money politics, vote buying, and weak party structures, which reduce the quality of democracy. Like, for example, in the year 2019 presidential election, President Joko Widodo or Joko won re-election through the nationwide direct vote, while the election showcased strong public participation. Election monitors reported widespread voter buying and the patronage politics, reflecting ongoing weaknesses in Indonesia's democratic process. So, in conclusion, between the South Korea and Indonesia, both countries are democratic, but South Korea shows stronger institutional trust and accountability, while Indonesia is still strengthening its system against corruption and money politics.
Effects of globalization in South Korea. So let's discuss first. K-pop and Korean dramas gained worldwide popularity. So globalization opened doors for South Korea to share its entertainment industry with the world. With the help of the internet, streaming platforms, and social media, K-pop musics and Korean dramas, K-dramas, reach international audience, group like BTS, Blackpink, and many more. So as well as hit dramas like Crash Landing on You and Squid Game become global phenomena. So the effects of this globalization, this boosted South Korea's soft power, attracting international fans, tourists, and even foreign students interested in Korea language and arts. It also contribute significantly to the country economy through album sales and concerts, merchandise, and tourism. So let's proceed to spread of Korean culture and values globally. So the worldwide success of K-pop and K-dramas is part of Hallyu or Korean Way. So the spread of Korean culture beyond its borders. So through music, dramas, food, fashion, and even beauty trends, South Korea has influenced global youth culture. So the effect of this, many people worldwide are now learning the Korean language, practicing Korean skincare routines, trying Korean food like kimchi, bibimbap, and takoyaki, and many more. So, and adopting values often highlighted in K-drama, such as strong family ties, respect for elders, and perseverance. So, this has created a culture bridge between South Korea and the rest of the world, enhancing Korea's culture, identity, and international preference.
Bright afternoon, everyone. So today I'll be talking about the effects of globalization on the culture of Indonesia. So first, let's remember that Indonesia is known for its rich cultural heritage and diversity. It has hundreds of ethnic groups, languages, traditions, and also artistic expressions. So because of globalization, this cultural wealth does not stay only within Indonesia. Instead, it also influences the world. So first is Indonesia is rich in cultural heritage and diversity, influence global cuisine, music, and art. So in global cuisine, Indonesian food like satay, rendang, and nasi goreng have become popular in many countries. And in music and arts, Indonesian traditional instruments like gamelan and its unique batik designs are appreciated worldwide. So second is Indonesian is cultural diplomacy efforts promotes cross-cultural understanding and exchange. So in globalization, it's not just about spreading culture, but also building connections between nations. So Indonesia makes efforts in cultural diplomacy. This means that the country uses its culture to promote cross-cultural understanding and exchange. So for example, Indonesian embassies often hold cultural festival abroad, showcasing dances, crafts, and also foods. So these activities help people from other countries to learn more about Indonesia and appreciate its culture more. So in short, globalization allows Indonesian culture to shine on the international stage while also encouraging friendship and understanding among nations.
Good day, everyone. Today I will discuss a comparison between South Korea and Indonesia when it comes to peace. So when we talk about peace, we are not looking at the absence of war, but also the stability of the government, the safety of the people inside the country, and how this nation relate to other countries. First, we have the political stability and governance between South Korea and Indonesia. So let me start with South Korea. South Korea is a very stable democracy. It has regular elections and the government is strong. People enjoy freedom and security in their daily lives. However, South Korea has one big problem when it comes to peace: its relationship with North Korea. Even if the government is stable inside the country, there is always the risk of conflict because of political and military tension with the North. On the other hand, Indonesia is also a democracy, and in fact, it is the third largest democracy in the world. So its government is also relatively stable, and leaders are elected peacefully. But unlike South Korea, the challenges in Indonesia comes mostly from the inside. There are issues of corruption, regional autonomy disputes, and separatist movements in some provinces like Papua. So while the South Korea challenge is external, Indonesia's challenges are more internal. Next, we have here the internal security. So let's look at the internal security of South Korea. So South Korea is one of the safest countries in the world. Crime rates are very low and people feel secure in their daily lives. Students can walk at night safely and communities are generally peaceful. So the only serious security concern is the unpredictable threat from North Korea, such as the missile tests or sudden border clashes. Meanwhile, Indonesia is also generally peaceful, but it faces more internal problems compared to South Korea. In the past, there were conflicts in regions um, like Aceh, and even today, there are ongoing tension in Papua. Indonesia also faces threats from terrorism and sometimes experiences violence between different religious or ethnic groups. But it's important to note that for the majority of Indonesians, daily life is still peaceful. Now, let's move to the international relations. So, South Korea has strong allies, especially the United States, which provides military support. South Korea also takes part in international peacekeeping efforts, which shows that it contributes to world peace. However, the country struggles with its difficult relationship with North Korea and sometimes also with China and Japan. So these strained relations make external peace more complicated for South Korea. Indonesia, on the other hand, follows what we call a nine-aligned foreign policy. This means it does not take side in big power rivalries like between the US and China. Instead, it focuses on building cooperation through ASEAN, so the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Indonesia is often seen as neutral and peaceful mediator in conflicts, which make it a country that contributes to peace in Southeast Asia.
Hi everyone, bright afternoon. So now, let's talk about the Global Peace Index of 2024 about the South Korea and Indonesia. So the GPA rank of South Korea is 43rd. So South Korea is a high safety, strong institutions, but high militarization due to North Korea. So it means that South Korea is a very safe for everyday life, like low crimes rates, strong policy, and good infrastructure. And South Korea, it has a strong institutions, just like stable government, effective rule of law. So even though South Koreans enjoy safe cities like Busan, regular military drills and missiles tests from North Korea keep the country on high alert. So, in summarization about the South Korea is a stable and secure country, but external reduce its peace ranking. Next, let's proceed to Indonesia. So the GPA rank of Indonesia is 48. Indonesia fewer external threats, but domestic security issues lower its score. So Indonesia is a peaceful foreign policy, rarely involved in conflicts with other nations, plays a diplomatic role in ASEAN. So Indonesia is a friendly in the world stage, but sometimes faces internal unrest like protests or regional separatist movements. So the summary is Indonesia is a good international relations, but internal challenges lower the peace score. Now, in summarization of South Korea and Indonesia is, South Korea is more stable and secure overall but faces external military threats, while Indonesia is a peaceful foreign policy but internal challenges affect its peace ranking. So, in simple terms, South Korea is a very safe daily life but big outside threat in North Korea, while Indonesia is not a much outside threat but trouble inside. That's all. Thank you.